We just opened up Fund 4. In the past, our funds, they'll fill like in a day. There's just so much demand for the product that we offer. We launched Fund 4 kind of hot on the heels of Fund 3, so we still do have investment opportunity in Fund 4. Fund 4 is about 30-40% full right this second, and there will be a Fund 5, but it's a very unique structure. So there's no fees whatsoever. There's no acquisition fee, asset management fee, capital event fee, disposition fee, loan or recourse fee, marketing promotion fee, and we don't get any profit from the fund until our investors have gotten a full return of capital, and then it's a 50-50 split after that.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Abundant Journey YouTube channel. Now, for those of you who have been hanging out with us for a while and following along, you know that primarily we've been a podcast, and we love sharing the stories of entrepreneurs, business owners, and folks who have been really successful. But what we've realized recently is that people want to go a little bit deeper with our guests and dive into more of the how. How did you build a business? How did you build a real estate portfolio? What are some lessons that you've learned along the way that you, our guests, can pick up as you're on your own journey? So what we're doing today is hanging out with Nick Stageberg. And if you haven't checked out our episode with him, it was like one of the first 10 episodes we ever did on the podcast a year and a half ago at this point. And then recently we had the chance to have his wife Elaine on. So check out those episodes. Today's are going to be a little bit different. We're diving into more of the nuts and bolts of the business. And hopefully we're going to provide some awesome feedback for you guys and stuff you can apply in your real estate journey, in your investing journey, in your business journey. So that was the intro. Nick, what's up, man? Thanks for indulging me on that.
Thanks for so much for being here. I still remember that podcast. It's a pleasure being like an OG podcast guest.
That's right.
Pretty often people, we do a lot of teaching and speaking and stuff. So very often people will say, hey, do you want to be one of the first guests on our podcast? And those podcasts often don't go anywhere. So like you guys are just absolutely crushing it. Your podcast is amazing. Love checking out episodes whenever I can. And it's a pleasure to be back on the show here.
No, absolutely. And thank you for the kind words. You guys have also been crushing it in the last few years since you and I first met. Let's not go into the backstory because, again, we have a few hours of episodes between yours and Elaine's story, and we have those out there. But let's dive into what's going on today. Tell our listeners and our audience, what sort of business you're running and what you guys are doing kind of day in and day out.
Yeah, so we own and operate a real estate private equity fund, which sounds real fancy, but basically investors put money into a bucket, and then we use that bucket to go out and buy apartment buildings, single-family homes. We do big renovations on those, make them more valuable, get to a cash-out refinance. That's how we return capital to our investors and generate a profit. And today we've got about 1,500 units, over $350 million in assets under management. Those are principally here in Rochester, Minnesota, where we live, and we have some assets in a few other places. We've got about 300 units under contract right now, about $50 million, $50 million under contract right now. And then we just recently launched our latest round of our fund, so Fund 4. Just launched. We think now is a really good time to buy, and it's a better time to buy than I've seen in probably 5 or 6 years or something like that. So it's been a busy time for us. So those are a few of the things that we're working on here.
I love it. And, you guys are not the only people recently in the real estate space to tell us that this is a decent time to buy. And before we go into kind of our nuts and bolts questions, give me just a minute, kind of your thoughts on the market. I think a lot of people hear the sky is falling in commercial real estate, multifamily real estate. People are like, yeah, there's no way I'm buying into that kind of stuff. Why do you guys feel optimistic at this time with what you're seeing?
So a lot of what we do is guided by timeless principles. The old Warren Buffett expression, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. I think that we're at peak fear right now in the single-family, multifamily space. A lot of groups, they are doing capital calls. There's rescue capital floating around and facing a complete loss of LP capital. And those groups are not buying. Very few people are buying right now. And so the few people who are buying, there's some sellers out there that have to sell. and the buyers are getting extraordinarily good deals. Like one deal
Yeah.
we're under contract on right now in Fund 4, Georgetown Townhomes. We're under contract at $20.1 million. We have an appraisal in hand at $22.8 million. So we're walking in with almost $3 million of equity. Just because we're the one buyer in the marketplace right now. They have to sell, and
Wow.
they have to sell at a price that works for us, frankly.
Yeah.
The other big deal we're under contract right now, Boulder Ridge Townhomes. We're under contract on that one at $20.2 million. And we're $2 million under the next highest offer there. And we're about 30% below another asset that we wrote an offer on 2 years ago, direct comp asset that transacted for 31% more per unit. So we believe we're walking in with as much as 30% equity on that deal, 30% equity on that deal, just because we're one of the few buyers that are in the marketplace right now. So it's a great time to buy if you are able to buy, if you have the courage to buy, and if your existing portfolio is in a stable state. So fortunately, we had all fixed rate debt on our existing portfolio. We're still doing distributions. We're not doing capital calls. And you have to have that stable footing to go lean into a time of fear like this. So it's really not that complicated. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful, if you can.
I love that. And I think that goes, that's the phrase that guides you. But I think the timeless principles of doing things the right way and, having those rules or guidelines and not getting out of your buy box, playing defensive. As you know, I'm a banker, and there's a reason why banks pull back typically in these seasons, and why banks have been around for over 100 years, because they know how to play defensive. And so as you guys probably missed out on some deals you could have jumped in on in the last couple of years, and that probably hurt at the time, look at now how you guys are able to continue and get things at a discount when other people can't even buy because they are putting out fires left and right.
100%. As a banker, you know that you have to kind of manage the credit cycle as well. It's hard to buy when there's fear in the marketplace because lenders aren't excited to lend.
Yep.
And it's interesting. So Georgetown, for example, very difficult for us to get like a regional bank to underwrite that deal, which is typically when we're doing an acquisition, that's typically what we do. But regional banks are so scared right now that it's difficult to get those loans. We're doing a Fannie Mae loan. But if you're one of the few borrowers getting a Fannie Mae loan, again, there's not a lot of borrowers right now.
Yep.
So just the way supply demand works, we're actually getting surprisingly cheap capital. There's a good chance we'll be at like 5.4% on our rate.
Wow.
On the Georgetown loan because there's just not a lot of borrowers in the marketplace right now, and Fannie has money that they want to put to work. That's their mission.
Yep.
So a lot of people are struggling with 8, 9, 10% interest rates right now. Maybe they bought a variable rate loan that's gone way up, and they've got interest rate caps and stuff. But if you're one of those few people, that's the greedy person, others are fearful. We should end up at maybe 5.4% on our purchase for Georgetown. So people complain about high interest rates. But that's the interest rates that shot up from a couple of years ago. If you're one of those buyers that can buy an asset like that and go get a Fannie Mae loan on it, there is credit available at a very good price right now.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And speaking of money and access to capital, let's camp there for a few minutes. So one of the things that oftentimes new investors or business owners are looking for is, how do I get the money? Because everything costs. How do I get the money to build the business? How do I get the money to buy the real estate? Now, one you're talking about is go to the bank and try to get loans. Another is, do cash out refis on maybe property you own, or save up as you're working your regular job. Another one that comes to mind, which you guys have really mastered, is using other people's money. So again, you have to have money in order to get into the game. You have to have money in order to build what you're building. So what has been some lessons you guys have learned along the way? What are some of your favorite ways to really get access to money?
Absolutely. So there's lots of ways to attack that question, lots of levels. If you are a person, so we're just talking about a private equity fund. So let's say that you are interested in becoming a multifamily syndicator and eventually kind of, managing a private equity fund, being a GP. No matter what level you're playing at, the very first thing you need to do, in my opinion, is to find someone who has what you want and to model them, to get into relationship with them. Do not try to reinvent the wheel. Find someone who's 1 or 10 steps ahead of you, and then just provide them with massive value. So you can go like hire a coach or, mentor or whatever. And my wife and I, we do a ton of seminars. I think, we geeked out on Tony Robbins a little bit on that last podcast we did.
Yep.
We have, multiple coaches and mentors and stuff. I'm doing a Tony Robbins event this weekend. But at the end of the day, if you just provide massive value to someone who's a few steps ahead of you, very quickly, you're going to, engage some social reciprocity there. Like, I think most people who have achieved a lot of success, the thing that they like crave more than anything is to help other people along in that abundant journey. And there's just something intrinsic in the human soul that, like, this thing that I have, it's really not valuable unless I can give it away, unless I can share it. Like if you win the lottery, like, what's the first thing you do? You want to tell someone about it. You want to share the good news and contemplate how can I share this wealth with other people. So every day people reach out to us, and if they hear a podcast and say, they ask a high quality question like, how can I offer you value? Like, we have one person who is helping us with some like social media stuff. We can always use help with that. We have another person where their daughter is becoming like an employee. They came to our conference a few months ago, and their daughter is like joining us as a full-time employee. Another person who came to our conference is not usually a recruiting event, by the way, but their son became a summer intern at our company. Like both of these kids relocated to our market because their parents said, hey, like, these people have what I think you guys want. Would you want to get this experience? And so we get, just brilliant, hungry, young, motivated people to help out with fun problems. And they get to just learn, incredible things. And if you're further along in the journey, if you're, middle-aged, you probably have a lot more resources to offer than a, 18 or 20-year-old kid that, doesn't have a lot of resources to offer other than their time. So let's say hypothetically, you mentioned that you're a banker, right? So let's say that you wanted to go raise money. You know a lot about banking. You could probably get into relationship with like the general partner of a real estate syndication and say, hey, I would love to network with banks and loan brokers and help you raise money on the debt side. And man, I would really love it if I could ride shotgun with you and see how are you raising capital on the equity side? How are you, doing podcasts and seminars, or how are you doing pay-per-click marketing or whatever to go raise money to go launch a private equity fund or a real estate syndication? We all have such extraordinary value within us that we have to offer. I think people sometimes get trapped in this scarcity mindset. Like pause this podcast right now, sit down, write it down. Like, what are the most valuable things that you have to offer the universe, or to offer someone that has what you want, that can teach you what you need to know? So it doesn't matter, what it is that you want. It's just a skill set you need to learn, and all you need to do to learn it is to find a person who has it and just model what they have. Or to get very specific, let's say that you want to do a single family home. So we're gonna step back from real estate syndication, private equity fund. Let's say that you are making a $40,000 a year income, kind of a modest average income, and you are working at Costco or something like that. So you don't necessarily have like a banker skill set that you could leverage or whatever, and you just want to go out and you just want to buy your first single family home, and you're not sure how to do that. Again, it's going to be the exact same thing. You need to go find a real estate agent. So do a little bit of research in your marketplace. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I hang my license with Keller Williams. We're in the top 131% of real estate sales teams. There's a dozen real estate agents that work for me, and we love to get into conversation with young people that want to buy real estate. And we're gonna give you a fire hose of education on what it takes to go buy that real estate. And then we'll probably get you in touch with a lender or several, or with a title company, with the people, the team that you're going to need to go buy your first single family home. And we might know strategies for your specific case that would help you buy a single family home. So maybe in your market you can't afford to buy a single family home on your particular income. So shoot, can we get you into a townhouse? No, that's a little too expensive. Okay, can we get you into a condominium? Okay, can we get you into a fixer upper? Can we get you a 203k loan? Can we real estate agents and real estate mortgage brokers, like, they know more about these niches than you could ever know, and you don't need to know. You just need to get into a relationship with the right people. So I just threw out a few buzzwords like a 203k rehab loan. I can get people into a house in my market for low or no money down. If you make 40K in my area, I can get you down payment assistance from the state. I can get you down payment assistance from local housing foundations that will stack up that down payment assistance on top of the state down payment assistance, on top of an FHA subsidized loan. Our staff, I encourage all of them to buy houses. Many members of my staff have bought houses in the last year, and many of those people bought houses with little or no money down. You might think that the days of buying real estate for low or no money down are gone. You just need to get into a relationship with people that are doing that have a creative mindset. I promise you that wherever you live, people are making money on real estate, and people are buying houses. Might be harder in some areas, easier in others, but I promise you there's a way to do that. So if you want to buy your first single family home, that's a great way to do it. If you still are struggling, a lot of people, I recommend they do a rent by a room. So an employee of mine, we got him to his first fixer-upper house. He's doing kind of a live-in renovation. He bought a 3-bed, we'll call it 1.5 bath home. He's a 19-year-old, really brilliant, young, hungry kid that's on our team. And he doesn't mind having some roommates. So he lived in the basement, rented out all 3 rooms and the full bath. And he's kind of working with a half bath that we'll call it a 3/4 bath now. And he's probably added $50,000 of value to that property in just a few months. 50,000. I wish when I was 19 years old, I had made $50,000 in a few months. I wish I had someone in my life that could guide me in that process of how to achieve that. And he bought that house with low or no money down. His cash flowing like crazy. In probably another 6 months, he'll be ready to maybe move in a 4th roommate into that room. So he'll have four people, paying his mortgage plus cash flow, and he'll be ready to go buy his next house. You could go buy a small single family home or a small multifamily home, a quad, and rent out those other rooms. So those are a few tactical suggestions I would have for people that are trying to get the money they need to buy real estate. It all comes down to finding a mentor, to finding someone to model, and then just depending on what level of the game you're at. Those are a few different tactical suggestions I would have.
I love those different suggestions because, again, a lot of people, it's easy to put the roadblocks up and it's easy to say, man, there's no deals out there, or I don't know how to do this. But you're right. There are people with resources. There's people with answers. There's people who have lived through it. So it starts with education. It starts with learning. And then, of course, taking action. And that is the basis for, I think, most of the podcasts we talk about is learn, surround yourself with the right people, and then go do it. And you'll find that as you stumble and as you make mistakes and as you fail forward on things, you're going to grow and you're going to continue. So maybe before we jump to the next topic, let's flip it on the other side. What are some cautions you have or things you've seen of the pitfalls of using other people's money or the pitfalls of getting bank debt? Because, I think it's good to create an honest answer on both sides here of, people can look and see what you guys have done, see how you've stewarded your investors' money well, but that isn't the case for everybody all the time. And so what are some pitfalls, maybe to word of caution, but also maybe things people can pick up and look for?
Man, that is a really high quality question. I absolutely love that question. So unfortunately, we do a lot of coaching, mentoring. Anyone can go out to meetblackswan.com and block 15 minutes on my calendar to chat if there's any way I can provide you with value. So we get a lot of kind of heart-wrenching phone calls where someone says, shoot, I really messed up. Can you help me get out of this hole? Sometimes we have some ideas. Sometimes they're in a deep hole. And it is not uncommon. It's surprisingly common for people to go out and somehow they raise capital. And they don't really have the core competence to put that money to work. So maybe they've got a rich uncle, that type of relationship or something like that, and they put that money to work, and it turns out that money doesn't work out so well. So here's an example. I'm going to make sure I don't share too much information. All of our calls are confidential. But this person, they went to do a BRRRR business model. So they were going to buy a single family home, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And they borrowed money from we'll call it an associate, kind of a friend or family member or whatever, and they promised them like an interest rate, like a 10% interest rate or an 8% interest rate or something like that, and they put an expiration on that. They said that I'm going to return all your money to you within a year, and they I think they bought that property right. They didn't do as good of a job as they could have done on the renovations, but it was one of their first deals and stuff. This is their first time using other people's money. They'd kind of done this successfully like once before, but kind of, and kind of the wind was at their back with the market. They didn't do a great job on operations, in my opinion. I think that was one of the biggest things. A lot of people, they really struggle on the boring day to day, like when you get a maintenance ticket, you need to fix that maintenance ticket quickly and cheaply. Mm-hmm. When vacancy coming up, you need to fill that vacancy quickly. The end outcome of all that was they got to the refi part of their business plan and they weren't able to refi. Interest rates were up and just the property was not performing well enough that they could get to that refi. And when they structured that promissory note to this kind of associate, they weren't able to pay that money back. And then they went to that person. And I admire their transparency, but they said, "Hey, I'm really sorry, but I don't have your money." That was their script, is I don't have your money. Man. And that person now flipped out and said, "Oh, well, do I need to take legal action against you? Do I need to foreclose on this property?" And then that's when we got the call. Like, whoa. First of all, you really set yourself up for failure here, because what you need to do is you need to align all your incentives. And when we put together a deal, we make sure it's a can't lose deal. We try to think of all the ways this could go wrong. And if we just eliminate all those ways, then we know we're going to be okay. Like we know that, if we can't lose money, then the default is that somehow we make money. And, the old Warren Buffett principle of, the first rule of investing is don't lose capital. The second rule of investing is, see rule number one, don't lose your principal. So if I could go back in time and do that again, obviously it'd be nice to just operate the property a little bit better, do a little bit better rehab. But really the problem went back to the inception of the deal. I think they had a solid premise, but they didn't align incentives because they only gave themselves a year runway on that note from a friend. And if I had structured it, I would have said something like, "Hey, I really want to return capital to you in a year, but let's say that there's a problem. Who knows what? There's a fire, flood, act of God, whatever, something outside of my control, and I'm not able to return that money within a year. Well, then what? What would be an outcome that would align our incentives? Maybe there's like a penalty rate that applies. Maybe the rate goes up to, maybe it was 8% and it goes up to 12% or something like that. And I'm going to give you monthly progress updates on why we haven't achieved a return of capital yet, and what the steps are to get to a return of capital. So those expectations are already set in advance that we want to return capital in a year. But if we don't, if things go wrong, what happens then, so that the person who's given you their money, I mean, this is a sacred bond when you take someone's life savings. This is an oath. This is a commitment. This is a covenant. What am I going to do so that that you're going to get your money back? And how are our incentives aligned? Like, okay, the rate goes up, so like I really have this now more painful incentive to get your money back to you as quickly as possible. And maybe you're sad that you're not getting your money back after a year. But there's at least some alignment of incentives here where you're getting more. You're getting a higher rate on your money. So you're like, well, I don't have my money back, but I am getting a higher rate. So now our incentives are aligned. And at some point, that person might need to make a painful decision. Do they want to sell that property, even if maybe now is not a great time to sell? And that's when they'd go to that person and say, can we rework this deal? I'm contemplating a sale, but I think that could be, a big loss for me. Would it be a smaller loss if we could just extend this note for another year, another 2 years? At what rate? And then would that give you a better financial outcome and give me a better financial outcome? They were stuck in this very win-lose kind of mindset where they thought, well, shoot, I'm stuck. I don't have this person's money. Don't ever tell your investors that you don't have their money. Explain to them why you can't return their money today if you get stuck in a position like that, and what your plan is to get it back, and make sure they know that their money's not lost. And no matter what, like, your reputation is your most valuable asset. It's a tiny world out there, and delivering bad news is a trust building exercise. Delivering bad news is a trust building exercise. Whenever someone gives you good news, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, yeah, they say that things are going great, but are they blowing smoke? Is there a catch to this? When someone gives you bad news, no part of your mind is thinking, yeah, this person's making up this bad news. There's no reason why anyone would lie to you to give you bad news. And it's in those tough moments that a person's true character is revealed. It's in those tough moments that a person's true character is revealed. So when you're delivering bad news and say, hey, I'm sorry, I can't get your money back to you. Here's my plan to get it back. And here's why. And here's why your money's not lost. It's just, there's a delay in return of capital. You're like, okay, I see what this person's all about. And ironically, that person might be more likely to invest with you in the future if you handle a bad situation well. So look forward, isn't this a great problem to have? Like my deal went pretty well, not as well as I'd hoped for various reasons, but my deal went pretty well. The money's not lost. It's just delayed. The business plan is delayed. And I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, and I'm going to build trust with this person as a result of it. So I think it's a super common pitfall when people, they go out and they raise money that they don't, they maybe have better networks or better personality or better capacity to raise money than they have to spend it. Yep. And to steward that wealth and managing money, it's really a very boring kind of detail-oriented exercise. You have to keep your eye on the ball with operations. Raising money, that's more of tends to be more of a sexy sales, flash in the pan, networking persona type skill set. And often the two don't meet. So a lot of times you see GP teams and stuff where there's kind of one person who raises the money, one person who spends the money. My wife, Elaine, who's my full partner in the business, she tends to raise the money. She's very strong feminine energy, super connector. She's kind of a big celebrity online. And then I'm kind of the person who spends the money. I'm a little bit more of, I'd say, a boring operations person. I enjoy the acquisition side of the business, which tends to be, I'd say, a little bit more of a masculine skill set, whereas the capital raising tends to be more of a feminine skill set. So that's the biggest pitfall that I see, where people ultimately, they figure out that they're able to raise money, but they don't have the capacity to spend that money and to generate a return. And I think that is, how a lot of, multifamily syndications and funds and stuff have fallen into the trap that they're in right now. Is a lot of people went to a boot camp or something and learned how to raise capital. But these people, they had never bought an apartment building before. Yeah. And they had no idea how to run an apartment building. And they had no idea what to do if things didn't go so well, because that just wasn't in their business plan. They just expected that things would keep getting better. And they never stopped to think, how can we align incentives, not just when things are good, but if things don't go so well.
I got to pause for a second and just say, even though you tell me that Elaine is the big face, your episode with us on the podcast, you guys are a power team with big personalities, and that's why we love you guys. So, no, I think the wisdom there is huge. And I again go back to thinking about banking. So many times business owners have this rosy lenses and everything's good, even when clearly the numbers are showing something different. And when I sit down and have to have that conversation as the banker, I'm listening for, are you going to be honest? Are you going to be truthful? And do you have a game plan to make sure that this gets corrected and fixed? Or are you walking in this, oh, we're going to be good and it's no big deal? And so I think you're right. Transparency, honesty, those shine through. And I think you really speak to some of those pitfalls, and that was one thing in my journey early on of like, oh, I want to be a big syndicator. It sounds sexy. It sounds amazing. But then you realize you got no business running that until you learn the game and you learn what can go wrong. So playing defense is a huge one. Let's pivot just a little bit and talk about people. And we've been doing that, but I kind of want to talk about it as you look internally to your team, because one, I know that both you and Elaine are workhorses and you guys are out there, you're grinding, you're doing what it takes both for your investors and to build something special for your family. But there's a lot of people who maybe say, hey, I don't know how to build a team. I don't know how to get going, but I'm just going to do it myself. I've heard all the bad stories of, partnering with others, and I've heard all of the fears that come with that. So, let's camp here. One of the things is that you guys have been able to scale, and I think you said 1,500 doors or so, and you're managing millions and millions of dollars. You couldn't have done that with just you two. So talk about the necessity of a team, but then let's go a little bit further and talk about how you've built that team.
Absolutely. So, I have kind of an unfair advantage that I had a long, successful career in the technology field. So my first startup, I got in at the ground floor of a startup. I found a group of people that had what I wanted to do this big tech startup thing. I was I had a bachelor's degree in computer science, bachelor's degree in ministry, but no real kind of previous work experience. And I took like a discounted salary to get into the ground floor of an exciting startup. And we went from 13 million venture capital to 100 million in private equity sale over the course of 9 years. And I got to see a company grow from, I think there was just a handful of people there, maybe 10 when I joined the company, to about 100 people when we sold. And then I had the privilege to build a software development startup for the Mayo Clinic. And the Mayo Clinic has a somewhat unlimited amount of resources. Money's not a thing to them. They really care about the outcome, the quality of the outcome. Can we provide a next level patient care experience? And so again, there's just a handful of people there when I started. And after the course of 3 years, I had 13 teams of engineers that I was managing. And they would literally just, come to me every week like, hey, do you want to hire more people? You guys are getting really good outcomes. We want to throw more resources at this. Can you use those resources? And you get a lot of repetitions doing hiring, training, onboarding. It's very easy to lose your culture when you grow that quickly. What are the foibles? How do things change? So going from just one person to one person plus, say, an assistant, and one person plus, going from managing one person to managing a team of people. That's a completely different mindset for management stuff. So I had some unique advantages. So our company today has about 50 employees that are underneath my vertical at the company. There's probably a couple hundred people doing something for us somewhere today, swinging hammers and fixing air conditioners and stuff. So we have a very large team. I would say that leadership is the most important skill that any human can master. Leadership is the most important skill that anyone can master. Even if you don't have any employees, just your ability to recruit and enroll other people to your vision is absolutely everything. I have 4 kiddos, 8, 6, 4, and 2, and one more on the way. And my ability to lead them is paramount in my success as a father. They're the same skill set. Let's say let's think of something a little more mundane. Let's say that you're hiring someone to mow your lawn for you. I think that's like just about the most basic employee that you can have. Contractor. And I've got like a house with a wooded lot. It's like a complex lawn to mow, and there's often imperfections in how they mow the yard. And so I'm like, okay, how do you like to be communicated with? People with lawn services companies are notoriously poor communicators. They require more leadership than most employees. So you like your emails. You don't pick up the phone because you're on a riding mower and you don't hear it ring and stuff, but you and you have other people that monitor your inbox, but you miss text. Okay, so email is the best way to communicate with you. And you have Hispanic employees, so they aren't great with written communication, but they're great with photo communication. So I will send them a photo of me like pointing to the spot that there's an issue, and then the next time they come out, the issue's fixed. Now, if I tried to then call them and speak in English and they didn't answer the phone, I'd be furious and think they're doing a terrible job. No, I did a poor job as a leader in leading the people who mow the lawn for my company. So, if you hadn't picked up on it, figure out how people like to be communicated with. Ask them explicitly, how do you like to be communicated with? This is not rocket science. We all make the mistake of assuming that people like to be communicated with the way we like to be communicated with in terms of mode, brevity, cadence. These are variables that we just assume the whole world likes to communicate like we do. That's a very myopic way to do it. Shifting gears, anyone out there, if you don't have an employee, making the leap to your first employee, that's a big leap. That's a really intimidating thing. As a corporate manager, I went from 13 teams of engineers to just myself for a minute when we kind of pivoted to real estate as like our full-time thing. And then when I hired my first employee, it was actually a coaching client. And just again, a really young, hungry kid. I love hiring young, hungry people that have an open mind. That the way we do business is very different than how most people do business. So if we hire people with prior experience, it's actually a little bit of a liability because we have to like untrain them, and sometimes we can't. So I love hiring young, hungry people. This was an 18 then 19-year-old kid who was paying me for coaching, and I coached him through his first real estate deal. He made $50,000 or $60,000 on a real estate deal that I coached him through. Again, I wish I was making that money when I was a young person. And I said, I'm really busy, and you really like this coaching. Would you like to stop paying me for coaching, and instead I will pay you to just follow me around. Like I'm spending a lot of time driving, for example. You can just drive me everywhere I need to go to all these different meetings and job sites and acquisitions and stuff. And I'm meeting with bankers and investors and stuff. So you can just drive me to those meetings and, get us a table at the coffee shop and get our coffee for us. And, when we're going to a job site, you can get there and, open things up and, do a kind of a preliminary check, and then I'll go through and can you think of a more like stellar education, a more stellar coaching experience for this guy to get? I mean, he was working for me every waking hour he possibly could. Like he was like a pig in poop. And I tried to give him money. Like I tried to give him like, here's a check for $1,000, man, you killed it, and he would be like, are you kidding me? Like there's no way I can take your money. Your money's no good. And eventually I think I came to some arrangement where he couldn't turn down the money because I felt bad not paying him for the work he was doing. So like pause this podcast and just write down, who are the people in your life that have benefited the most from your relationship, that would be elated for the opportunity just to follow you around. And then, think about it from my perspective. Like I didn't exactly know what this guy was going to do, right? Like I wasn't hiring for like a maintenance technician. Our portfolio wasn't big enough to support it at that time, but I knew here's this person that's just hungry to be in closer relationship with me, that I know I can bring massive value to them because I've brought massive value to them in the past. How can we create this win-win deal where so much value is created that no matter what they do, it's going to be an amazing outcome for both of us? And I had never had someone that like drove me around. And it's like a pretty big power move when you meet with someone at a coffee shop and they have a person there who's like, oh, and how did you like your coffee? Okay, an iced triple vanilla mocha, latte. Okay, I'll get that right. Like if you've never gotten table service before at Starbucks, like it's a very special experience to have. And I'm like, man, this is pretty good. I gotta do this. Is just completely organic and opportunistic that I stumbled into that. So getting your first employee is not it's not that hard. You just have to find the person that you can bring the most amount of value to. Don't think about the person who can bring the most value to you. Think about who's the person in your life that you can give the most value to them, and they're going to be your raving fan employee. They'll go recruit and enroll other people and bring them to your team. And then kind of scaling up from there. I'm very much a student of leadership. So I'm always reading leadership books, studying, case studies and amazing leaders. Because again, I think that leadership is the most important skill that a human can master. And so today, I have the privilege to manage a large number of people, and I do that with some systems. So every week at 8:30 on Monday morning, which is usually the highest energy time someone's a week, right? We get our team together. We have an all hands meeting. And this past week, I started by leading them in some guided breathing exercises. So we did some like yoga postures. I'm kind of a fitness guy, and I'm all about mindset, meditation and stuff. So we spent like 10 minutes doing it, and our team loves it, and that's on purpose, because if you don't love it, you're going to leave our team. Like just be your unapologetically authentic self. The people that love you, they will be magnetically drawn to you. And the people who don't, they will be repulsed by you. We hired this person, and we spent 6 months courting her. She was a rock star. She was a maintenance supervisor for like a competing management company. So we didn't just get her; we got all of her vendor relationships and discounted price. It was a huge coup to get this woman. And then she joined our team, and she quit after like 3 weeks. And I said, well, what, like you got amazing pay and benefit. Like you kind of got the most generous offer we've ever written to a recruit, because we knew that you were a rock star. And she said, I felt like you were brainwashing me. I felt like I had to be happy all the time, and I hated it. And I'm like, okay, sounds like it wasn't a great fit. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that feedback. We always do an exit interview, even if someone's not leaving on great terms. Like she was repulsed by that yoga at 8:30 in the morning culture. And that's a good thing. I don't want that person in my culture. That is, God or the universe's way of keeping people out of your life that are going to pull you back. So just be your unapologetic self. So we start with doing like yoga, mindset, teaching, whatever. Then we celebrate our wins, personal and professional, from the past week. What are the most amazing things we can celebrate, and clap and cheer and stuff. And then I have every member of my team fill out an anonymous survey. It's a simple survey. Everyone here should be doing this survey with every person in their life that they care about, every relationship they care about. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much energy do you have? On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how valued do you feel at work? So just those, and you can just do on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? I like to break it out because sometimes someone feels like 10 valued at work, but they're like a 1 on energy because they're sick that day or something like that. So I like to see a little bit more detail there. But I go to my wife, and on a routine basis, I say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you in our marriage? And if I'm not earning a 10, what can I do to earn a 10? So think about that for a second. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you in our marriage? And if I'm not earning a 10, what can I do to earn a 10? So by phrasing the question that way, I'm saying, I take full responsibility for the way you feel. I take ownership for this marriage, for our relationship, for the quality of our relationship and our marriage, for the quality of your feelings. Because if you're not feeling good, that's my responsibility. That's my fault. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you to a 10, baby. All of our tenants, we do an outbound call survey. We call every single one of our tenants at least once a year, ideally 2 or 3 times a year, and ask the same question. How happy are you with us as your property management company? And if we didn't earn a 10, what can we do to earn a 10? So these are all different people that you lead, right?
Yep.
These are, we have to lead our tenants. I have to lead my wife and my kids in my marriage and in my fatherhood. I have to lead my staff. And if they're not a 10, well, first of all, I say the goal isn't to be a 10. I need to know where you're at. So please don't write down a 10 if you're not a 10. But if you're not a 10, is there anything I can do to help you to be a 10? And we review those scores as a team. So everyone submits that survey, and 2 minutes later, we've got the scores on the board, and we get to see, oh man, the whole team is 2 points lower on the energy score this week than they were last week. Let's step back here. What can we do? Did something go wrong? It doesn't matter how many employees you manage. When we have a new employee that joins us, they have a simple deliverable at the end of each day. They need to send us an email saying, what did you do today? What do you plan to do tomorrow? What are you stuck on? And rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 10. What did you do today? What do you plan to do tomorrow? What are you stuck on? And rate your energy on a scale of 1 to 10. This is an email that any new hire should be able to send out in, a couple of minutes, and it gives us an instant snapshot on how they're doing. Because sometimes you have a great onboarding experience in, new job or whatever, and you're like, oh man, this is amazing. I love these people. And sometimes you're like, oh, yeesh, this is, I might be in over my head. I don't know. I have some fear of missing out on a different opportunity, or I feel an identity crisis or imposter syndrome. These people are rock stars. There's no way I can keep up with these people. I want to know that. Or let's say, so our new hires, we do a huge onboarding program where they will shadow with every department in the company extensively. So even if you're hired as a leasing agent, I want you to spend several days shadowing with a maintenance technician and knocking out maintenance tickets. I want you to spend several days shadowing with our facilities team and cleaning units. I want you to spend several days shadowing with our construction team. I hope you install a little bit of flooring. I hope you roll a little bit of paint, because you need to know how the different pieces of our company work. If you don't, you're not going to be an effective leasing agent.
Yeah.
And you look at their energy scores on those shadowing days. Man, it turns out they have really great energy scores when they shadow with this maintenance tech. But when our new hires shadow with this maintenance tech, they have terrible energy scores. That's a weird pattern.
Yeah.
We should probably look into this. Do we have someone on the team that shouldn't be on the bus, or is there something about the nature of the work that they're doing? Maybe they're our sewer drain clean out tech. Well, that might be a reason to be a lower energy score than if you're like our trim carpentry finish, guy or something like that. So a whole bunch of tactical suggestions there that I think anyone listening to this could implement. Doesn't matter how many people you lead. If you just lead your friends, go to your friends and say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with our friendship? And if I didn't earn a 10, what can I do to earn a 10? I promise you, it will ambush them. They will be blown away, and you might get some interesting feedback that surprises you. So leadership's the most important skill for anyone to foster, and those are a few tactical suggestions I would have.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because, one, leadership is something that's always evolving and it's always growing. But I think on top of that, what goes hand in hand is humility. And you didn't talk on humility, but I think the humility to ask those questions, man, because you have to be receptive to getting negative feedback, and you have to be receptive to hearing things you're probably not going to want to hear. But when you look and say, hey, holistically, we're in this together. We're in this to constantly improve, constantly educate ourselves, elevate you, elevate me, elevate all of us, whether that's family or business or friendships, whatever that looks like. To be able to go in and ask those questions, I think is huge. And I encourage our audience to do that and maybe just test that with a couple people, a couple people close to you in your life. But I love that question, especially when you're managing, because so many times you hear that as businesses get bigger and as businesses expand, they just lose their finger on the pulse of the employees. There is a further widening gap between how the employees act, how the employees feel, what the employees' needs are, and then what upper management goals are. So that's a way to keep your finger on that. Nick, this has been awesome. I want to spend a couple minutes here talking about Fund 4 for you guys and how folks can get involved with y'all, because clearly, again, we've had you on the podcast. We've gotten your story and journey. We've gotten Elaine's story and her journey. We love hanging out with you guys, spending time. And there's so much more to mine from your experience, your wisdom, and the stuff that you guys have learned just over the last, decade at this point, as you've continued to build this thing. And I know, and I remember, and you boisterously said, hey, I'm growing this thing to $1 billion company and we're getting there. And so you guys are grinding and I love it. But as folks want to jump on, as folks want to continue to learn, let's talk about Fund 4 a little bit, because, you're optimistic about the market. So what are you excited? What are the properties that you guys are focused on right now? What are you excited about Fund 4? And what are some ways investors can be excited about as well?
Yeah, so we just opened up Fund 4, and in the past, our funds, they'll fill like in a day. There's just so much demand for the product that we offer. We launched Fund 4 kind of hot on the heels of Fund 3, so we still do have investment opportunity in Fund 4. Fund 4 is about 30-40% full right this second. I'm not sure when this podcast is going to go live or whatever, but I'm guessing there might still be some availability when this podcast goes live. And there will be a Fund 5. We're very boring. We like to just do the same thing over and over again, but it's a very unique structure. So there's no fees whatsoever. There's no acquisition fee, asset management fee, capital event fee, disposition fee, loan or recourse fee, marketing promotion fee, and we don't get any profit from the fund until our investors have gotten a full return of capital. And then it's a 50-50 split after that. And if you kind of pencil that into a calculator, our limited partners, the people who choose to invest in our fund, they come out ahead with our structure versus pretty much any other structure I'm aware of in the marketplace. We're very passionate about vertical integration. We self-manage. We have in-house lawn, in-house snow. Those are really tough things to do in-house, but we saved 80% on our lawn and snow removal last year. So I believe we're able to deliver, really outsized outcomes in the performance of our assets, because we lean so hard on that vertical integration. People love investing in our funds. It's an indefinite hold period, so they know they can put that money there, and there's really it's difficult for you to lose money when you target a long hold period. A lot of funds and syndications, they target like a 2 to 5 year hold period, and because of that, a lot of them are realizing a loss right now. I'm not going to say it's impossible to lose money with our fund, but it's really difficult because we're focused on the long term, because we have such a conservative approach, and we've never lost money on a real estate deal before. We've never had a capital call, which I said probably puts us in the top 5 or 2 or 1% of real estate private equity funds, real estate syndications in the marketplace right now. And then we're just getting some crazy deals right now in Fund 4. So we have Georgetown Homes and Boulder Ridge and Stonehaven Apartments. So all 3 of those deals, each of them, we have $2 million of day one equity we're walking into. We have an appraisal in hand that says we've got $2 million of day one equity on each of those assets. Now is just a really good time to buy. And that's why we're, I would say we're on kind of our biggest fundraising push, we've ever done. We're doing a lot of podcasts and stuff right now, because we see a short window in the market cycle where there's an exceptional opportunity to buy. And we've got the pedal to the metal there. So if anyone wants to learn more, they can go to meetblackswan.com, and they can, anyone's welcome to schedule 15 minutes to chat with me or Elaine. If there's anything we can do to provide you with value, if you have questions about investing in the fund, you can look at our, 4-hour webinar where we, answered every question live, on the air that anyone could possibly ask about it. And we kind of do a deep dive on all those things. But we would love to serve you if, if you're thinking about investing in real estate, you're not sure where to get started. I think it's a great place to get started with someone who's been there, done that, and learn from them. I think that's a great way for anyone to get started. or if you have invested in lots of funds and syndications and stuff, then you probably understand just how exceptional our outcomes are. That we haven't done any capital calls, that we are still doing distributions. We had one person who reached out. They said they're in 11 syndications right now, and ours is the only one that is still doing distributions. And I think that's, we have exceptional outcomes at this time, because I think we planned ahead and we have that long-term vision. So that's a little bit about Black Swan Fund 4. Anyone can go to meetblackswan.com and learn more about that.
And we'll attach links to that as well. But I'm going to gush over you for a minute, because I think it is something to be proud of. It is something to lean into. The first thing, and you blew through it as you were talking about Fund 4, but the fact that you guys don't take a bunch of fees and bleed money from the deal right up front is huge. And then the fact that you guys don't get paid until your investors get their money back. You talked so much earlier about aligning interests and making sure that we're on the same page as we move forward so that everybody wins. You guys really, as I've spent the last couple of years talking with so many different syndicators, you guys are the only ones doing it like this. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that you're still, able to do distributions and you're not having to do capital calls. I mean, that is a huge part of it. So I absolutely love that. And I love that that's how you guys have modeled the business. And you've just said from day one, we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it this way. So audience, listeners, I encourage you absolutely to go check out the website, go check out the 4-hour webinar there. And if you do feel so brave, schedule some time with Nick, and just be prepared to get ambushed with the epic question of how can I provide value to you today? Nick, you're the only person that's ever asked me that on the beginning of a call, and I don't think I'm ever going to forget that. So, and
I would like to start every conversation. We all walk into a conversation with our own agenda, emotionally. Yeah. And I try to check that at the door. I try to make a habit as often as I can. I try to start a conversation, start a call by saying, what can I do to provide you with value? What's your agenda in this conversation? Yep. How can I meet those needs? Because if I do that, I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. And that's the abundance mindset lived out. It's not just a concept. It's easy to say, hey, let's live with abundance. Let's believe the world has abundance of stuff. But to live that mindset, to live that heart, to interweave that into every piece of your business is huge. So, Nick, this has been awesome. And listeners and audience, thank you for hanging out with us today. Again, we wanted to go a little bit deeper behind the inspirational stories of folks who have done amazing things. If you liked this episode, share it, but definitely leave a review. Definitely give us some feedback if you want us to dive behind the nuts and bolts and pull back the curtains a little bit on some of these amazing business owners and the things that they're doing. So thanks for hanging out with us today. Nick, we'll have you back on soon, but thanks for hanging, man.
Thanks, Nick.